agriculture faces serious challenges. Chief among them is the climate change. Today we see, because of climate change, Indian agriculture is affected very severely, especially in terms of food production, water availability, rural livelihoods, and income to the farmers. Besides, animals are also affected because of climate change, and we have to be prepared to mitigate the climate change. For this, not only research work is important, but also awareness about climate change and climate resilient agriculture is important. Today, if we have to increase the income of the farmer, there is no way other than to make sure that their agriculture is more or less climate change resilient, so that they can be assured of profits. In order to that, we have to make changes in agriculture education program, especially build courses which allow students to learn about principles of climate change and implications. We can work for developing technologies which will mitigate the effects of climate change. In times of stress, especially when we have less water availability, water management becomes important, and this program will have to be given major emphasis. Another issue which is also gaining importance these days is the change in temperature. High temperature affects not only crop growth, but also during later part of the crop, the yields are affected, and this poses also serious threat. Therefore, all the technologies that we develop will have to be multidisciplinary, which takes care right from the seedling stage to the harvest stage. This approach will require interdisciplinary learning. It will require fostering linkages with different stakeholders, especially educating farmers also regarding the technologies for climate change mitigation. Already research work has been started by ICAR institutes and scientists in state agriculture universities, and the major focus is on all areas that are impacted by climate change. Especially breeders are now engaged in developing varieties that are climate resilient, especially in wheat. Varieties are being developed which can escape heat stress during grain development. This allows us to produce more, and the losses in production are much less. Now, when the crops are sown, usually either vagaries of monsoon or because of change in temperature, crop growth is affected. There is need to collect data, and data need to support the advanced warning system. We have made tremendous progress so far as the weather forecasting is concerned. So today we have weather forecasts, but weather forecasts alone cannot help farmers, because farmers have to battle not only for withholding or tolerating moisture, but also major insect pests which also are affected by climate change. We see coming in of many new diseases and insect pests, and therefore building inbuilt resistance against new pests and pathogens is important, and work in that direction also is going. But unless we have the genes available, it is difficult to develop varieties with inbuilt resistance to all biotic antibiotic stress. Fortunately, biotechnology has offered us new tool by which we can circumvent some of these biotic and abiotic stresses. In cotton, BT cotton has really revolutionized cotton production, but now more tools are in the hands of the scientists. Genome editing is a new technology which is going to help develop varieties with characters which can mitigate biotic and abiotic stress. Presently, one rice variety has been developed which can tolerate moisture stress in rice. And therefore, there's a lot of opportunities for developing different varieties which will have a kind of either tolerance or resistance to some of these biotic and abiotic stresses which arise due to climate change. We have to prepare the whole new generation of students well versed with these new technologies. It requires knowledge of agronomy, entomology, pathology, plant physiology, and biochemistry, because as we move forward, we have to make sure that our population get food products which are not only nutritious but are affordable. One of the major contribution in terms of food nutrition improvement is by animal livestock. They are also affected by climate change, and therefore entire approach will have to be a multidisciplinary, and it should involve even the private sector, because in India our private sector also has R&D. They are also working. Time has come when the synergy of the private sector and the strength of the public sector need to be joined together for meeting climate change issues. Experiential learning, which we started in agriculture universities for student learning, is a good effort. We need to really now move forward for precision agriculture, sensor-based agriculture. And to make these effective, it is important to have data analysis, data gathering, and forecasting for insect and pests. As we move forward, it will also be important that we should manage our gas emissions due to either methane production by animals or crops, but also we see that in all our agriculture processes. Even when produce comes to the market, farmers have problem if the produce does not meet the required quality as a result of any of the climate change, then farmers are at distress. We must develop technologies that can take care of the produce which, if it has a problem, these are the problems with some special grains such as pearl millet, and if we have monsoon at the time of harvest, the grain can get spoiled. We will need to develop technologies which can avoid this kind of spoilage. As we move forward, I think we will have to redesign our curriculum and the way we think, because ultimate our effort is to have sustainable agriculture under adverse conditions. And for this to happen, we will have to not only develop new technologies, we will also have to have capacity building and faculty development. Our faculty would need to be really made to communicate interdisciplinarily and help in developing climate resilient technologies. We will have to encourage faculty exchange with best of the institutions worldwide. Climate change problem is not only of India, but it's an international problem, and therefore it requires international cooperation and help from the strengths of the institutes overseas. We will have to promote field-based learning through climate-resilient agriculture demonstration plots, develop model villages, and internships with climate-focused NGOs and government agencies. It has to be a kind of joint effort by every stakeholder of agriculture, because if agriculture production fails, then industrial production also cannot be supported. Therefore, it is time that we all work towards one objective of developing climate resilient agriculture, which will give farmers not only nutritional and livelihood security, but will ensure a continuous income to them. Thank you all.